So I'm going to be giving you a PvP tier list today, and as you can see from behind me, I've been doing a ton of PvP recently, and I am, I believe, the highest leveled character on my server currently. I know some of the max rule guys are up to Paragon 13. I'm Paragon 11 currently, and as I was doing this, I was Paragon 10. So I feel like I have a good representation of how like that advantage plays out and what sort of capabilities I am out of getting my class and some of the things that I've had trouble dealing with. And based on that, I decided to go ahead and create this list to give an idea for those of you that may be deciding on what class to play based on the PvP capabilities, because that is a very, very large portion of the end game, especially when you're dealing with the Immortals. With all that being said, we're going to dive in and show some gameplay of my PvP matches, as well as giving you my thoughts on all of the classes in PvP. Let's jump into it. So let's get started with this PvP tier list. Now, I will caveat by saying that I've only done, tens of matches. I haven't done hundreds or thousands, but a lot of the matches have confirmed my suspicions from beta. And basically, the tier list in general would not have changed all that much. I will say that some of the skills that I've evaluated have changed due to how impactful, or rather not impactful based on the format of PvP. Now, that being said, you actually can't run groups, so synergy with other classes is hard to come by because everyone's running around everywhere, and you can't really team up to go and beat up a group unless you get lucky and pair with a friend or a clanmate or something like that. So definitely keep that in mind. And if that were the case and you could group up, I think that some of these positions would change and some of the builds would change due to you being able to combo with your teammates. All that being said, let's jump into the first class, which is Barbarian. Now, I think Barbarian is an immediate S tier for a few reasons. First off, the skill that I rated as probably the best PvP skill, I don't think it is anymore, and that is going to be Undying Rage. I think it's still an excellent skill, but I found that it's not as impactful as I thought it was. There are just people who can actually run away from the Barbarian, typically the Wizard and the Crusader, as well as the Necromancer, actually has a decent chance of getting away from the Barbarian or keeping up with them. And so the fact that you have to hit people to heal up basically means that you extend your life for a few seconds and then you die again. But you do get some value out of it, especially if you jump into a group. And so you have to use that skill properly. It's not just an auto win. So I don't think that skill is as good as I thought it was going to be. However, a skill that's way better than I thought it was going to be is Whirlwind. I thought it was going to be great. And it turns out that I think it's even better. It might even be one of the best skills for PvP, specifically with a legendary item called the Gathering. You can actually gather people up with your Whirlwind. How insane is that? You basically spin, run at people, and you gather them up. It's so insane. On top of that, they have the Leap and Sprint, which allows them to chase people down and run away. Oftentimes, running away in this PvP matches is actually really good because you can quickly heal up with a bandage and get back in the fight in a matter of seconds. So being able to escape people is also very important. And we'll go over one class in here that has really struggled to do that. And I think they're the worst class on this list. But all that being said, I think Barbarian is S tier, and it's going to be joined by the next one on this list, which is Crusader. I think Crusader is an absolute powerhouse for PvP. I think it's just a slight step down for Barbarian because the Crusader doesn't quite have the damage to back up all of the power in the Barbarian. I think the Barbarian has more damage. The Crusader definitely has more CC. However, with the Crusader, you're going to need some legendary items. But I do think that Crusader has the best PvP skill in Draw and Quarter, or the Horse, being able to chase people down and run away, as well as being able to amplify it with a legendary item to make everyone get knocked back is actually insane. I didn't realize how powerful CC and knockbacks and all that stuff were going to be. I knew that stuns and knock-ups and things like that are insane, but knockbacks didn't seem that good. But the great thing about it is that you interrupt abilities. If someone casts an ability and you hit them with a CC, it puts their ability on cooldown, which is really, really important. This can also be used against the Crusader, by the way, to counter their Horse, so keep that in mind. But I think the Crusader is still excellent because you could also pair the Horse with a legendary item called Little Lance and get 3 extra dashes. And then you have Shield Charge, which is another dash. And so you have amazing chase and escape potential with a ton of CC. But the damage isn't quite as high as some other classes. And so I don't think they're better than the Barbarian, but the amount of CC they bring is just absolutely insane and makes them a really, really tough class to deal with in PvP. Now, Next class on this list is actually going to be the Necromancer. I'm going to put them in A tier. I think that the Barbarian and the Crusader are a step above the Necromancer, but I think the Necromancer actually is pretty insane for PvP. And the main reason for this is you actually have amazing CC skills in the Bone Pillar, as well as the spikes. I'm not sure what the ability is called, but there's a spikes that knocks up people. The amount of CC that you can deal, as well as bringing in Wraith form so you can dodge abilities and escape. And then the amount of, I guess, distraction slash diversion slash actually just roadblocks that you have in your summons is really hard to deal with. And if you happen to bring in Bone Wall, you can actually block terrain. The Necromancer just has a lot of tools, and they actually have decent escape potential just with the fact that they can summon and put roadblocks in front of you and CC you. They don't need to escape by actually escaping with speed. They can escape by actually CCing you and CCing you out of your movement abilities oftentimes, which makes them, in my opinion, an A tier class for PvP. Next up, I'm actually going to put the Monk. And I'm going to put the Monk in A tier as well. I think that the Monk is actually quite solid, specifically for two things. They have a lot of movement abilities and a lot of support skills and a decent amount of damage. And the big thing that I think is going to be really, really huge is the Shield of Zen and being able to immune CC, especially if you put it on a Crusader and then them able to just run their horse through the enemies. This is, I would say, you could drop down to a B tier if you do not have the support and kind of the ability to pair with someone else who's good. So I guess we could leave them in B tier on the list for this purposes, because you can't duo and group with people. But I do think that they are an A potential for PvP because of their supporting abilities. But I do think that the Monk is very, very good for PvP simply for that. They don't deal a ton of damage. They do have some decent damaging skills, but really their power is in support. Next up is going to be the Wizard, and I would put this Wizard at B tier, but I also think actually they could be potential in A tier. Now, I will say the Wizard is one class that I don't think I have a whole lot of experience on seeing. I think that I have not seen a Wizard actually pop off. I think they might even be potential for S tier, depending on how well the Wizard plays, because they do some insane damage with their burst capability in what I would consider sort of like a teleport bomb build, where you teleport in, blow up your ice armor and explode someone and then teleport out, because their teleport has 3 charges, which is insane. But for the one I've seen, I would put them in B tier. I'm actually going to leave them on A tier for the list because I think that they have the potential to be A tier with how much damage and the ability to move around. The thing is, all these classes don't really do as much damage as the Wizard, which is pretty impressive. But all of these other classes also have movement and CC. The Wizard also has one CC ability, which I think is very, very good, and that's Black Hole. If you're able to modify that, you could actually do some massive, massive work with that. So with their minimal amount of CC and their ability to dash, paired with their immense damage, I think the Wizard takes an A tier spot and is definitely solid for PvP. I think that both of these classes could be interchangeable to B and A. I think that when you're looking at this list and you see someone in B tier, I would say that these classes up here are sort of like very, very strong slash broken, like way better than the other ones. So keep that in mind. I think that these are on a level of their own. And so these aren't actually quite as far down in the list as you might think. Now, the last class is the Demon Hunter, and I'm actually going to put the Demon Hunter in, I want to put them in D tier, honestly. I think that they're not very good for PvP. I'm going to put them in C tier because I think that they have potential if you play really, really well. The problem is they actually just don't have any way to deal with Crusaders and Barbarians. Like they as far as I've seen, you don't have any way. You could daring swing all you want. It's not going to help you. I literally have 4 dashes and then a horse to chase you down on the Crusader. You're not going to have CC to stop me. You're not going to have the damage to deal with me. Once I get on top of you, you're going to die. So the Demon Hunter just has no way to deal with these classes. And without the ability to actually escape these classes, they're going to run over you in PvP. On top of that, they can't actually do a ton of damage to all these other classes, like the Monk, because you're going to have the support skills and the ability to move away from Demon Hunters. So the problem is the Demon Hunter can't catch anybody. And then also, if anyone decides to kill the Demon Hunter dies. So they just don't really have a lot going for them in PvP. I think they're definitely a way step down from the other classes. I think that if we go later on and get some way better gear, they might be able to jump up to B or A tier, simply because they'll have the damage to actually burst through people. But right now, their damage just isn't high enough to actually deal with me. And I'm sure you might have seen in some of the clips that I've been showing you on screen here of me just chasing down some demon hunters and just absolutely demolishing them without any chance of dealing with me because of how impressive the movement abilities are on the Crusader. So that is my overall PvP tier list. I think that in general, this is very similar to what I would have put in the beta. I would have put Monk above the Wizard. I would have put the Necromancer behind the Monk as well. But I think that overall that the Necromancer has shown that it's actually quite strong with just the ability to prevent enemies to run towards you because of unit collision. If you're running a Crusader and you have the horse, it's not bad. But remember, the Necromancer can CC you out of the horse and just CC you in general. So it's pretty tough to deal and getting close to the Necromancer, which is exactly what you want to do as the Necromancer, is keep your slight short range to mid-range distance. So overall, that's my thoughts. I want to know what you all think in the comments down below. You all seem to like the PvE tier list. This is the PvP one. Let me know what you think about PvP in general. I've been having a ton of fun in it, and I plan on doing it a bunch. Excited for accessing the Immortal soon, which will basically be a giant PvP match. So we'll see about all that when the time comes. But that being said, hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you for the next one.